Hey, um, so I was thinking about some incidents that I saw online over the weekend. Um, One person had a really heated exchange going on one of their posts and um, wasn't doing anything about it. To be fair, I don't think that they were aware it was happening until it had happened. And somebody else that I know posted something and got a whole lot of "you're just looking for attention" and you know this isn't real, you're making this up or whatever. When I was growing up, we didn't have Facebook, and it was still not difficult to overshare things, but you didn't overshare it to quite as wide an audience as you do when you're on a social media site where dozens or hundreds of people are going to see what you're posting. And one thing that I have done with videos like this in the past and with posts that I've made is I have tried to find the line between oversharing and sharing and not sharing things that will upset other people. That last one is a problem because when I'm saying something like, somebody tell me a joke, I'm having a bad day, that is true as far as it goes, but the real truth might be that I'm dealing with a bout of depression and I really need some kind of contact with human beings, and I'm not saying that because I'm worried that people will say I'm just attention seeking or I'm bringing them down or whatever. There are things that I talk about going along with affirmations and creating your own reality that I tone down because I'm still trying to figure out how to phrase that so that it doesn't sound like victim blaming. And that isn't a thing that I do because I don't want to upset people. That's a thing that I do because I don't believe in blaming people who've had crappy things happen to them. And because I can't quite figure out how to phrase it, I just don't say it. I mentioned in my last video that there are things that are true for me and about me that I don't talk about. And there's a fine line there because I don't want to be in everybody's face talking about everything going on in my life and in my brain. But at the same time, holding things back that I feel should be shared, holding things back that might help somebody else because I'm worried that people will get ticked off at me or I'm worried that I'll lose a friend over it or whatever, that's not the right reason to not talk about it. I think this video is kind of wandering around a bit, and I am trying to make a point, but I didn't think it through clearly enough, obviously. Anyway, I talk openly about having mental illnesses. I don't do that because I'm seeking attention. I don't do that because I want pity or somebody to pat me on the head and say they're there. I do that because I want other people who are dealing with it to know that they're not alone. And I also want to say, hey, you guys that used to say I was just seeking attention or I should just get over it, screw you. This is part of who I am. It's not my favorite part, but it's part of who I am. And if you're going to accept me as a person, you're going to accept that part of me. If I'm going to accept me as a person, I'm going to accept that part of me. And that acceptance includes not hiding it, not necessarily getting in everybody's face and talking about it. I don't walk up to people and say, hi, I'm Kim Winkler and I have mental illnesses. How are you? but there's a difference between not being in people's faces and not hiding. I have spent a lot of my life hiding who I am, and I would really rather not do that anymore. And I would really rather nobody feel like they have to hide who they are just so that other people will be happy. At the same time, sometimes you say something in the spirit of trying to be who you are, and people call you on bullshit, or people call you on problematic words or phrases. And that's not a time to go off about how it affects you that these people are doing that. Obviously, if you're getting people jumping on you saying this is a problem, then that can sting, especially if it interferes with what you think of yourself. But if you've said something that offends people, but it's your truth and it's what you believe and it's not harmful to any person or group of people, then that's cool. But if you say something because you phrased it poorly or you just weren't thinking and it does harm a person or group of people and you're called on that, that's not a time to say, well, I'm who I am and I'm going to post what I want to post. If you have caused pain or harm to somebody, that's a time to say, I didn't think of that. I am so sorry that I caused that for you. And let it go. I had to the person that I mentioned that had a big conflict on their post, I ended up having to unfriend, at least for the time being, because after that happened, every single post I saw from them all weekend was just bringing it all up again. I get that they were probably trying to process what happened, and I can understand that. I read the thread that had the conflict on it, and there was a lot there, and I can see where it would cause somebody to need to take a step back and process. But it was also, there's a time to share with your friends and followers, and there's a time, in my opinion, there's a time to say, this is a really big thing and I'm not handling it as well as I would like, and I don't know how to handle it. So I'm not going to keep talking about it online and keep bringing up these negative feelings for these people. I'm not going to try to excuse myself. I'm not going to try to justify what happened and why it happened. I'm going to say publicly, I am sorry, I was wrong. And then if I'm going to keep talking about it, I'm going to talk about it privately to friends or family members who are supportive. Being who you are being who you are online is a good thing. Sharing your truth, talking about what you believe, that's cool. And sometimes you do need a reality check, and sometimes it is okay to say, wow, this thing happened and I'm really not sure how to handle it. But then you listen to what the people tell you. And I mean, I'm not trying to come down on this one person, because I've done the same thing. That's what I'm getting at. It is really hard to figure out online what you should and shouldn't be sharing. I had a situation last year where I was posting stuff online in sort of a blog thing that I thought was private, or not private but anonymous, and it got back to one of the people that I talked about. Even though I was not using names, I didn't realize that I was using identifying information. I used just enough identifying information for somebody to figure out who that was and put the pieces together and get in touch with them and say, hey, this person's posting about you and you need to do something because she's dangerous. So I was sharing my truth. I was sharing my feelings. I was processing things that were going on in my life, but I did that in a way that caused somebody else emotional harm. Thankfully, it didn't cause them any physical harm. It didn't cause them, it could have been a lot worse than it was because people did figure out who it was. And I didn't sit there and say, oh, well, I'm just telling the truth. Why can't I do this? And I didn't get into detail about it online and say, well, this thing happened. I don't understand what I did wrong. I did privately discuss it with a few people that were on the site where I'd been posting this. I discussed it with other people that were involved in the situation because they had also been mentioned. And I apologized. That's the point. I was posting my truth and I was sharing things I thought about my life, but it impacted somebody else, more than one somebody else. It caused emotional harm. And so I didn't say, oh, well, I guess this is happening because I'm learning a lesson. I didn't say, well, all I did was post what's true for me, so why is this a problem? I said, holy shit, I caused a lot of trouble. I am so sorry. I got the posts taken down. The person who was first notified about the situation contacted me quite angry, understandably, and I didn't try to justify it. I said, you're right. You are right. You have every reason to be angry. I didn't mean to cause you harm, but I know that I did. The posts are gone. I am very sorry. And I left it at that. Now, I had private conversations with people in which I wasn't quite so calm about the situation, but I did recognize and acknowledge that I had fucked up. And I didn't try to excuse it. I didn't try to brush it off. I didn't sit there publicly processing it. And I tried very hard not to hold on to it. Hold on to the lesson that I learned, because make no mistake, I did learn to be extremely careful of what I post and who I post about. But, everybody makes mistakes. We are all going to screw up in our lives. It's what human beings do best. When you make a mistake, though, it doesn't serve you or anybody else if you are just sitting there going on and on about how, oh, I made a mistake and I hurt people and I'm learning from this and people are being mean to me because I made a mistake and whatever. And again, I'm not calling out any one person with this video because I've seen it happen more than once and I've done it. But last year when I had that situation, I had learned a lot, and I didn't do that, I hope. I just said things, I screwed up. I am sorry I hurt you. And I had to say that to 3 or 4 different people. I am sorry I hurt you. I am sorry I caused you harm. And I said it to every one of them. And it was hard for me to deal with because I try to be a person who doesn't hurt others and doesn't harm others. And so when I do cause somebody harm, it hits me pretty hard. And part of my journey of accepting myself and loving myself is acknowledging that what I did might not have been okay, but I am still an okay person. doing something that caused somebody harm doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It means I did a thing that caused somebody harm and I need to make amends for it. So, and there may be things that I've posted online since that have caused problems for somebody. Nobody has come to me and said it has. If it has, I wish people would let me know, because I do want to know. So there's a fine line between posting your truth and saying, if you don't like my truth, you don't have to follow me. If you don't like that I post about my mental illnesses, you don't have to follow me. If you don't like that I talk about creating your own reality, you don't have to listen to it. But if I say something that is harmful to somebody else, you better believe I want to be called on that, because I want to make amends for it or make apologies for it in whatever way I can. There's a very thin line between posting your truth and posting your beliefs versus posting things that are harmful to others. If people don't like what you post that isn't harmful to others, that's their problem. But if people are posting stuff that is harmful, or if you're posting something that is harmful to others, that's your problem. And that's something you need to own, and that's something that you need to do something about. So just think about what you're saying online. Think about what you share. Think about how you would feel if you were reading it from somebody else. And just, be careful out there. That's all I have to say for this time around. But I will hopefully be doing another video later this week. And meanwhile, take care.